So what do a mouldy petri dish, a glue that wouldn't stick, and chocolate melting in a pocket, what have they all got in common? Well, they all resulted in what you might call serendipitous discoveries. Serendipity often looks like a mistake or a detour until your brain spots value in the unexpected. In this episode, I'm unpacking the neuroscience of those happy accidents and how to create the conditions for more of them. My name is Sabina Brennan, and you are listening to Superbrain, the podcast for everyone with a brain. Today, I'm exploring serendipity, those seemingly random discoveries that turn out to be life-changing. From Alexander Fleming's petri dish and penicillin to a chance conversation that sparks a new collaboration, science is showing that serendipity might not be pure luck at all. There is a really fascinating interplay between brain networks that notice patterns, personality traits like curiosity and openness, and even environments that make it more likely for us to get lucky. So today I'm going to decode the neuroscience of serendipity and how we can create conditions for it to find us. To put serendipity in context, the term was coined by Horace Walpole in 1754 after a Persian fairy tale called The Three Princes of Serendip, whose heroes were always making discoveries by accident and sagacity. That is a new word I learned this week. It means wisdom, sagacity. Yes, so they were always making discoveries by accident and sagacity of things which they were not in quest of. In other words, luck favors the curious. History is just full of these moments. So I mentioned Fleming and penicillin. That's kind of one of those well-known serendipitous scientific discoveries. He was actually growing staph bacteria on agar plates in his lab, and one of the plates became contaminated with mold. Instead of binning it as spoiled, he actually noticed something odd, a clear sort of halo around the mold where the bacteria wouldn't grow. Now, that wasn't luck alone, of course. It was pattern recognition plus basic experimental instinct. The mold was producing something that killed or inhibited the bacteria. He investigated that something and called it penicillin. It took later scientists to purify it and turn it into a widely usable drug. But Fleming's spoiled plate was the spark. I'm allergic to penicillin, unfortunately, but it is one of those super drugs. Anyway, yes, melting chocolate. Percy Spencer was working with radar equipment, specifically a magnetron, which is a tube apparently that generates microwaves. During testing, he noticed that a chocolate bar in his pocket had melted unusually quickly. Again, like Fleming, rather than dismissing it, he tried simple follow-ups. He started to indulge his curiosity. He put popcorn kernels near the magnetron and watched them pop. Then he tried an egg, which famously heated rapidly and burst. That's something you can try at home yourself. Put an egg in your microwave oven. Be prepared to spend some time cleaning up the inside of your microwave. Anyway, the mistake wasn't that he did something wrong on purpose. It was that an unexpected everyday effect, melting, occurred in a lab setting, and he recognized it as a clue. Microwave energy could heat food. Post-it notes. The next one, the glue that wouldn't stick. This is kind of a two-stage serendipity story. In 1968, chemist Spencer Silver was trying to invent a super strong adhesive, like a super glue. Instead, he created the opposite, a glue that formed tiny spheres that stuck lightly and could be peeled off easily and cleanly. Now, in most situations, that would be considered a failed product. But Silver kept talking about it anyway because he could see that it was unusual. It was repositionable, reusable adhesion. So about 5-6 years later in 1974, another 3M scientist, Art Fry, had a practical problem. Bookmarks kept falling out of his hymn book. He remembered Silver's so-called failed adhesive, and realized it was perfect for a note that would stick, lift, and stick again without tearing paper. That connection, matching a weird material to a real need, became the post-it note. So penicillin, microwave ovens, and post-it notes could all be described as accidental discoveries, but only because someone had the insight to see value in the unexpected and was prepared to satisfy their own curiosity. So serendipity is really where curiosity meets preparedness. So what's the science? Well, modern neuroscience helps explain what's happening when we experience serendipity. When the default mode network, that's kind of the brain's background processor, I've spoken about it before in previous episodes, it's kind of when the brain is idling without focusing on a specific task. So when that network interacts with the executive control network in your frontal lobes, we can integrate seemingly unrelated ideas. Again, I talk about this when I talk about the idea of flow. So that's the spark of insight. And studies using fMRI show that during creative problem solving, people who are in a high openness to experience and curiosity show stronger connectivity between these two networks. So that's kind of really, when you're in the flow, when ideas come to you. And it's when these two networks are operating together. Research psychologist Richard Wiseman was exploring the look factor in his research in the University of Hertfordshire. Now, he actually found that so-called lucky people aren't actually any luckier. They're just more open, more attentive, and more resilient. They notice chance opportunities because their attention isn't narrowly focused. And often for a lot of us, our attention is narrowly focused on the negative. Recent cognitive science reframes serendipity as an active process, not random luck, but the moment preparedness meets an unexpected event. Sociologist Christian Busch calls it smart luck. You create the conditions for chance encounters through curiosity, connection, and cognitive flexibility. Even digital environments now shape our chance for serendipity. Algorithms tend to narrow our exposure to new ideas, a phenomenon called algorithmic tunnel vision. But AI, used well, can also enhance discovery by surfacing patterns and associations our conscious attention might actually miss. 3 serendipity tools for your superbrain kit. Tool number 1, expand your input. Serendipity thrives on diversity. Read beyond your field, talk to people outside your usual circles, and deliberately expose yourself to unfamiliar ideas. The broader your cognitive map, the more dots your brain can connect when chance strikes. Tool 2, practice attentive openness. When you slow down and stay curious, instead of rushing to judge or multitask, your brain's attentional filters relax. That's when you notice small anomalies or coincidences that you might otherwise miss. Tool 3, reframe setbacks as openings. Many serendipitous discoveries start with mistakes. The key is to notice when something goes wrong and ask, what might make this possible instead? Serendipity reminds us that life's best discoveries often arrive sideways, not as part of our plan, but as a twist in the story. Whether it's a chance meeting, a delay, a mistake, or even a disappointment, pause before you dismiss it completely. You might just be in the middle of your next lucky break. Thank you so much for listening. If you found the content of this episode interesting, I think you will really find my book, The Neuroscience of Manifesting, very, very interesting too. Thank you so much for listening. Please do like, share, and next week is the final episode in season 6. Thank you so much for listening.